Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series 3 Fleets, taken from Reddit with the author's approval. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 11, To the Manor-born. Admiral Cheng and Captain Moore, I'll be representing you, Captain Moore said as he held out his hand, and Admiral Hall stood and shook his hand. They sat across from each other with a small metal table between them. The tiny room set aside for the meeting was barely large enough for the two men. The wall sconces cast just enough light just to see the furniture, but little else. "You have a defense strategy, Captain?" the Admiral asked. "We're honing in on one, sir. I've brought almost 200 JAG lawyers and 1,000 paralegals with me. We've been studying the Invalid Union's jurisprudence for the entire trip from Earth. One thing that we're not yet clear on is whether the Union respects lawyer-client confidentiality as we do. I've conditioned the Justicar for a secure location for us to talk, but until that is resolved, we'll have to be a bit more circumspect." The Admiral nodded. "Prudent, Captain." "The report we received," the Captain said, reading from a pad, "said that you invaded Turliak home system with the Third Fleet, infiltrated a Union warship, and crashed said warship into Turliak homeworld, rendering it uninhabitable to all known life. A second Union fleet showed up and forced you to surrender. You negotiated the release of your people back to Earth, but the price was that the ships of the Third Fleet were sent into local sun, and you surrendered peacefully. They brought you here to their capital, a space station called the Manor. That's best as we can tell, where you've been awaiting your trial." "Mostly true as to—" The Captain held up his hand. "Please, sir, we may not be at liberty to speak confidentially at the moment. I am updating you as to what I've been told by the Union. They already know this, so they'll gain nothing if they are listening." The Captain glanced back down at the pad and scrolled further along. "I also see 3 people were brought with you. Dr. Almeida, Warrant Officer Margaro, and Chief Petty Officer Fontaine. According to Union records, you requested they be allowed to accompany you as a medical support team to treat your congenital condition. They were allowed to come along and are not in custody as the Union considers them humanitarian and necessity." The Admiral nodded. "Yes, I hadn't originally wanted them to come as it would endanger them, but they prevailed on me, and the Union was good enough to allow them along. I see the doctor once or twice per day. Her assistants usually accompany her. They tell me that I've not been mistreated." "Good," the Captain said. "I'll check in on them when we're done here. Now, about your trial. A political entity as large and as old as the Invalid Union has quite a complicated process. However, since we are not a member species, and we are accused of not only attacking but destroying a member species, they are also in uncharted waters. That levels the playing field somewhat. We should be able to work out a hybrid legal system that isn't slanted in either side's favor. The trial will not be held by our courts, but instead in their parliament. It's not true parliament, but that's the closest human term that we could find. A tribunal of 3 judges will preside over the trial. The judges will not be of the same species as those who fought in the accused battle, and all 3 will be from different species. That's the best we could do for the impartial judiciary. Finally, the prosecution will be conducted by I can't pronounce it. It's the species that looks like giant grasshoppers crossed with a beetle." "I am familiar with that species," the Admiral said. "Yes? They were present in heavy numbers at the Battle of Turliak. They are quite keen on your guilty verdict." "I would assume as much. What do you feel our chances of winning are, Captain?" "Impossible to say, sir. This is unprecedented in human history. We may be seen as sympathetic for a number of reasons, or they may fear us as monsters." "So poor to none, then?" "I wouldn't go that far, Admiral." "Captain, I'm an old man. I have outlived my family and fought for and won my freedom. I don't have the time for self-indulgence or easy platitudes. I need to face my fate with clear eyes." "Yes, sir. I honestly would not care to guess on our odds. I've seen people I was certain were guilty be exonerated, and I've seen convictions based on papers and evidence. Add in the sheer uniqueness of the situation on both their side and ours. Well, I simply could not say, sir." "Fair enough, Captain. Do you have a timeline?" "Yes, sir. The trial begins in 4 days by our calendar." "Not much time," the Admiral said. "No, sir. but we've been preparing for weeks during the trip. I promise you that we have our very best minds on this." "I am sure you do, Captain." "How are your accommodations?" "Well, I'm a prisoner. That being said, not too bad. We brought some human food when I surrendered, so we've been able to eat well enough. The doctor oversees the preparations, and the guards check for contraband. To be honest, this is probably the first restful period I've had in 30 years. Good to keep your spirits up, sir. I'll see if my ship has any food that they can send over for a bit of variety." "Thank you, Captain. That would be nice. If your ship can spare the resources, I could use a new clean uniform for the trial. I'm afraid I didn't grab any Class A's when I was taken into custody." "I'll see what I can do, sir. Anything else?" "A book or two would help pass the time. I've always been partial to Twain and Hemingway, if you have them." "I believe we can figure something out, Admiral. I know this looks a bad situation, but we'll do everything we can. Everyone back home is pulling for you, sir." The Admiral half smiled and had a distant look in his eyes. "Thank you, Captain." Captain Moore found Dr. Almeida by an inverted waterfall deep inside the station. She was easy to spot as the only human amongst the dozens of aliens. "Dr. Almeida?" Captain Moore asked. She turned around and her face broke into a wide smile. "Yes. Oh, how lovely to see another human face. I am Captain Scott Moore. May I?" he asked, pointing at the seat down at the doctor. "Of course, sir. What brings you to the so-called manor?" "I'm a JAG attorney. I'll be representing Admiral Chuang at the trial." "So they were able to find someone?" Dr. Almeida said. "Pardon?" "Well, when we heard there was to be a trial, we thought no one would be foolish enough to take the case. A hostile jury and a legal system we know nothing about. Surely that would be too much for any human lawyer." Captain Moore smiled. "Well, I was ordered." The doctor laughed. "Of course you were. Command wouldn't want their prized pony left swinging in the breeze. Though, in all honesty, they did give me a chance to say no." "Why didn't you?" "As corny as it sounds, I believe in justice. The Admiral needed someone standing by him. I couldn't say no in good conscience." "That's very noble, Captain." "Thank you, Doctor. I came here to ask you about the Admiral. Is he okay?" "He told me that he was allowed to bring you and 2 others because he needed treatment and that you refused to leave his side." The doctor turned away and watched the thin crowds pass by. The waterfall gargled and the gentle hum of conversations filled the hole where the silence would be. 88, the doctor said. 88 what? Species, Captain. I've personally seen 88 new sapient species since we arrived here. They tell me that there are hundreds of species in Infinite Union, but so far I've only seen 88. "Those 2 squat bluish fellows over there by the arcade turnstile," she said, nodding in the general direction. "They're number 88 for me. You must be good luck, Captain." She turned back to face him. "I was stuck at 87 for nearly 2 weeks. "Does this have something to do with the Admiral's health?" "As a lawyer, I'm sure you understand about confidentiality." "I do. But I also understand about making the strongest case that I can, and to do that, I need a complete picture." "I cannot divulge any details. You should ask the Admiral if you want to know more. I understand you can't discuss specifics, but what about generalities? When you make it through the trial?" "Oh my, yes, he's clearly not on death's door." "What about his testimony? If he gets called to the stand, will he be able to testify?" the captain asked. "We will have to address the crack question when the time comes. I will say that he is a stubborn old man, and if he wants to take the stand, nothing you or I can do to stop him. That's not a medical diagnosis, you understand. At least, being bull-headed was never listed in any of my textbooks. Whatever his condition, do you believe it affects his mind? Can he contribute to his own defense? And, to be clear, I am not asking about his state of mind during the battle, just here and now." "I've observed no diminished mental capacity, Captain. How much he'll contribute, I can't say, but I know of no medical reason he can't." The captain smiled politely. "Thank you, Doctor." Captain Moore looked around at the aliens, wandering through, bustling past, and strolling along. He watched the various shapes and sizes among the crowd. He watched the rainbow of colors on all the faces. He watched sheer variety of life before him. "Do you think humanity will ever be invited to a group like this?" "Given what the Admiral did, I doubt it." "The Admiral didn't do anything. He's being accused of doing something," Captain Moore said, half out of habit. "I was there, Captain. I saw." The captain held up a hand and shook his head. Doctor, I don't know this legal system very well. I'm not sure what they would consider admissible evidence. For example, if some security officer was eavesdropping on us, this whole conversation might be entered into evidence. If you'd like to discuss this, and I'd very much look forward to that, then we can step aboard the human ship that brought me here. At least there, we have some measure of privacy. You are a paranoid one, aren't you? In one of my very first classes at law school, I had a professor that I thought was the very definition of paranoid. He taught us that a lawyer never asks a question in court without knowing the answer because lawyers hate surprises. We had a couple mock testimony sessions where he absolutely tore me apart. So the less fuel I can give to the prosecution's case, the better. Well, I suppose that's the difference between a lawyer and a doctor. We make it a habit to share information as widely as possible in order to help others. You seem to hoard information to help yourself. I am a zealous advocate for my client. I obey all the rules of my profession and adhere to the canon of ethics, but I will do everything within my framework to ensure my client prevails. I suppose I can see your point, Captain. Still, it's quite different than what I'm accustomed to. It is for most people. I appreciate your time, Doctor. We're docked at lower level, port 62D115, if you'd like to stop by for that interview. Pleasure meeting you, Captain, Dr. Almeida said. I'll stop by. She shook his hand and he took his leave. End of chapter. This is a special thank you to the one, the only, the legendary Eric Hino, who has become the only Tier 6 patron. I just want to thank the T5 patrons and channel members. Bob the Dragon, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnold, Estrella the Dreamer, Tryagain95, Fudic Yol, Meridian117, Alithia, Jordan Bucksborn, Angry Marine, Albarden Gusta, and Barkey. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.